And tension is already boiling over. The deputy struggles to secure her hands. She immediately refuses to cooperate with orders, despite claiming she is not resisting. The officer warns her that force will be used if she continues to fight against the arrest. Listen, tempers flare. The crowd gets hostile. An angry bystander confronts the suspect over her behavior, demanding accountability for the slurs used near children who live in this neighborhood. Later, police interview the shaken young victims, trying to establish the exact physical contact. They describe assault, determining if she trapped them against the barrier, which would elevate the charges to unlawful restraint or simple battery. Responded to a chaotic call about an aggressive woman targeting local kids. She was reportedly highly intoxicated. The 30-year-old suspect, identified as Alexandra Dean, was in a massive altercation with both the kids and nearby parents. Let us see how it unfolds now. The first unit arrives. Immediately, the officer tries to de-escalate the yelling and figure out who is responsible. Witnesses point out Dean. Several people try talking at once, but suddenly, another physical confrontation starts nearby. The crowd panics instantly. An adult is grabbing a child. People scream that the suspect had been throwing things. The scene is rapidly spiraling out of control. Now, let us analyze the arrest. Notice how the officer maintains physical control. Dean continues to pull her arms away, a classic sign of passive resistance. The deputy gives clear, loud warnings before escalating force, ensuring she knows the consequences of resisting. Watch. Hostility flares instantly. Officers try establishing control. The suspect tries to shift the narrative back. He instantly claims the local kids are targeting him. Desperation. He continues his defense, clearly struggling to find excuses, but the deputy stops him there, warning him that his excuses are not working. Real consequences are about to catch up with him. Arrest is imminent. The suspect acts completely blindsided by this. Confused, he points out the children in the background, complaining about mockery. The officer states the blunt reality of the situation. He has zero patience for deflections. The suspect protests. Deputies are not buying his story for a second. Silence ordered. He immediately starts hurling insults at the bystanders, targeting a witness nearby next. This hostile behavior is proving the officer's point entirely. Now he turns on another woman. Still arguing, the suspect continues to make a massive scene. The deputy tries to secure the scene first. Tempers remain high. Bystanders are trying to figure out what happened. We hear officers coordinating their positions over radio, tracking down the other suspect. Now the deputy begins gathering witness statements. Details. Listen. She points out the children involved in this. Notice how she directs the officer's attention, identifying the young victim wearing a purple shirt, confirming she was shoved. Denied. The officer separates the parties. They explain the verbal harassment the kids faced before the physical altercation escalated further, shoving a helpless child down to the concrete. Because of how it started, the responding officer immediately tries to calm everyone down. He wants to establish authority and restore order. Let's see what really happened here. He mentions backup is already on the way. Standard procedure is interviewing everyone separately. He is checking if the crowd will cooperate with him. They agree. Perfect. Locating the child's guardian, he guides them away from the tension, safely. But a distraction pops up. The officer warns a suspect about vandalism. Damaging police property is a serious felony. The suspect tries to mock the deputy's warning. Unfazed, she questions his age and experience. Denied. She continues trying to mock him. He is actually 35. She scoffs sarcastically. Now, let's look at this closely. He questions the victim, gently prompting her. She explains she was riding her bicycle on her side. The officer asks her to clarify the exact location, naming the local street. Exactly. Understood. He tries pinning down the exact intersection, near 20th, right by the store. She points out the area across the street. Indeed, she mentions riding along the designated red pathway there. Another child speaks up to corroborate the story. They were simply heading out to grab some snacks. Together. Right. Suddenly, an older woman approached and grabbed her off, knocking her violently to the ground. A completely unprovoked physical attack. The suspect attempts to explain. Let's find out. Watch the officer. He starts by questioning a young kid who claims a woman assaulted them. She allegedly pushed them off their bicycle. Suddenly, the suspect starts acting highly erratic, damaging the police cruiser's side window. The officer has to step in. She immediately begins to make excuses. Stop. Defiance. She aggressively resists the deputy's orders. No. Refusal. He repeatedly demands she act like an adult and asks for her age. She just deflects the question, questioning his age. He asks her again. She claims parity. He tells her to act like it. Now, she keeps arguing back childishly. He orders her into the cruiser, instructing her to wait in the back until he investigates. She starts blaming the young victims. They are the alleged victims, so she must cooperate. She continues her rant about the situation, explaining her own physical side. Still shouting, the deputy tries to regain control here, wanting to hear both sides fairly. If only she would cooperate with him. Right now. Agree. He asks her, but she immediately changes her mind. He must interview the young victims first. To understand, she curses, dismissing them, begging. Okay. She finally agrees to stay put. He thanks the officer. The shaken victim waits nearby while officers investigate. He apologizes, visibly shaken. He explains he was just recovering his bicycle, describing the suspect's wild behavior. The deputy clarifies if it was theft. He alleges she physically assaulted him off it, attempting to resist, to get it back while she grabbed him. Understood. The deputy asks about potential strangulation, noting another witness made this claim. Were you choked? Did she restrict his breathing? The victim believes that was her intent. The officer probes for specific physical details, trying to establish a clear timeline, or if she grabbed his upper body. He recalls her placing a hand on him. The deputy asks for the exact location. He hesitates, on the side, before pushing him. The deputy confirms, describing the moment he was dismounted. Noted. Then he mentions the suspect's verbal abuse, pointing out her aggressive, erratic shouting, targeting his grandson who was nearby, shouting insults at the young boy, hurling slurs at several innocent bystanders. Right near a local school, the officer tries to map the route. The victim clarifies. The deputy nods, listening closely, questioning why she targeted kids with slurs. Unprovoked, the deputy explains the legal process next, preparing them for an upcoming court trial, then asking if they recognize the suspect. Is she a stranger? No. A completely random encounter. They had just left a celebration when this incident occurred. Understood. The family is returning from a birthday celebration party. The witness points out the suspect nearby. She apparently threatened to run over the children. Officers immediately begin gathering formal victim statements. The deputy confirms they are documenting everything. Crime scene photos are next. The victim asks if his body cam is recording. Is it active? The officer assures them that everything is being captured on high-definition video, but the mother is too shaken to look. The deputy explains the next steps clearly. They need to interview several onlookers on scene. This ensures a solid case is built. It requires filling out formal written reports, which will take some time, ensuring the suspect faces consequences. One witness mentions they have to leave. The deputy understands the situation. He confirms the family wants to prosecute. They absolutely want to hold her accountable. Yes, she agrees completely. That is all the deputy needs to hear. Correct. He asks for patience while preparing files. Standard procedure for an arrest of this scale. They want to make sure everyone feels safe before they transport the suspect to jail. Meanwhile, another officer tries de-escalating the panic. He coaxes the frantic mother to focus on her breathing, helping her find her composure. She tries to calm down slowly. A vital stress reduction technique. Radio traffic shows the scene is secure now. Backup officers are standing by. Dispatch acknowledges that the air is clear, meaning emergency traffic only is over. The mother reflects on the near tragedy, realizing how close she came to losing everything. In an instant, it is terrifying. Indeed, he starts gesturing wildly, mumbling random excuses, uncontrollably, trying to justify his anger. Look right there. He is completely losing his cool. Here, he blames a group of neighborhood kids for starting the entire neighborhood confrontation. He claims they pushed him to the edge and even threatened his family during the dispute. Notice how defensive his body language is as he tries to sound tough here, claiming his own children are street smart enough to fight. But look at how the deputy reacts to this. Calmly, the deputy keeps steering the conversation back to the actual facts of this incident. Now the suspect begs for some cuff relief, claiming the metal is digging in too deep, while acknowledging he looks completely unhinged right now to the responding deputy there. Then he immediately goes right back to rambling about the local teenagers being out of control, calling them terrorists. The deputy presses for details. Instead, the suspect starts bragging about paying his taxes and his local status, before suddenly boasting about his past time in jail, as if that makes him a tough guy. You and I can see his name is Alexander Dean, telling the deputy to check his record in Collier County is some badge of honor to prove he is not intimidated by arrest. But again, he redirects the blame. The officer patiently tries to get the facts of what triggered this call. The suspect stammers, clearly struggling to explain rationally. Tonight, he tries to piece together a coherent timeline of events for the responding deputies by desperately appealing to the officer as a fellow parent. She asks about kids. He says yes. She immediately begs him to unlock the cuffs. Just let her loose. But the officer insists on waiting for backup. A female deputy must perform the search first. Standard. Still, she keeps pleading for some relief, asking him to loosen the cuffs slightly, claiming she cannot even think straight now. Her anxiety is clearly spiking here. Then she starts rambling about today's youth and how they are raised these days. She mentions they are taught to blame others, believing they are always the victims of society, bringing race into the equation. It is a common deflection tactic we see, distracting from the actual reason she was stopped. The deputy tries steering her back to reality, but she avoids the question. Instead, she makes a very bizarre request, asking him to pinch her nose to calm down. Highly unusual behavior. He offers a tissue to de-escalate instead. She rejects it, repeating the nose pinch demand. This kind of physical touch request is a major red flag. Officers must maintain strict physical boundaries. Watch. He declines, calmly, and asks for her story again. Listen. She hesitates, then starts complaining about the younger generation, saying they lack any real discipline, unfazed, cold, living without any real consequences, believing that nothing bad can ever happen. She compares them to her own childhood, growing up in wealthy Naples, Florida, where life felt completely safe, sheltered from the real world. Until now, when reality finally caught up to her, he begins explaining why he approached these random children. The officer asks for clarification. He admits he walked right up to them. He says he wanted to be real with them, explaining that the world is a dangerous place. He believes that life is dangerous and people are deceptive. This rambling shows a very paranoid state of mind. Let's look closely at how the officer reacts here. The officer tries to confirm his actual intentions. He struggles to explain his bizarre behavior logically. He claims things are just wrong. The officer asks the crucial question. He admits he has no connection to them. None. The deputy is trying to understand his motive. What exactly? He claims he wanted to take a stand. He felt the need to warn these children. He wanted them to understand his perspective, that things change, that reality is not what it seems. This kind of paranoia is highly concerning. He even brings up what their parents say. He believes parents are lying to them. Then he claims something even weirder. He says the children walked up to him first, treating him like they were already close friends, but he immediately rejected their friendliness. The deputy is tracking his shifting narrative here. Is that true? You and I can see him backpedaling now. He changes story. His cuffs hurt. The deputy acknowledges. The suspect continues to complain. Now the officer asserts control over the situation. He addresses the suspect's violent behavior, warning him about further physical restraint. Next, the suspect relents. The officer offers a compromise for good behavior, promising to adjust the painful restraints. This is a textbook example of verbal de-escalation. What do you make of this suspect's behavior? The suspect rambles. Notice how she tries to control the narrative. She desperately wants to justify her erratic behavior. She demands the officer's attention. He stays calm. Now the officer decides to bring her outside. He uses reassurance to keep her cooperative. Adjusting cuffs is a smart tactical move. He sets clear boundaries right away, making sure she knows she is still detained. The restraints are staying on, despite her complaints. He is looking for complete cooperation. She quickly agrees. She is eager to step out. He carefully guides her out of the cruiser, checking the cuffs. First, he needs her name. She identifies herself. Confirmed. She repeats it. He introduces himself to build rapport. Understood. Immediately, she goes right back to deflecting her actions. She plays the concerned citizen card. Juveniles. The officer positions her safely against the patrol truck. Notice how he keeps his physical contact professional. Checking the spacing. Let's watch how she shifts blame to local youth. She acts like she is educating them. Their neighborhood. Scoffs. Classic victim mentality. The deputy gets her to explain her side. Indeed, she admits to approaching them. He prompts for details. Now she describes how a crowd quickly gathered. They immediately turned on her, she claims, pointing out how they began hurling insults, swearing at her face. She believes she was target number one. She claims they treated her like the instigator. Let's analyze her refusal to take responsibility, playing the maternal card to justify her actions. She immediately tries building some rapport. She claims her kids are the deputy's age. Watch how she stumbles, trying to avoid trouble. She desperately wants to talk her way out. The officer remains entirely focused on the facts. He asks her directly for a home address. Watch. Hesitation. She begins giving a sketchy, partial address. Stalling. Then she completely shuts down the questioning. Suspicious. Another deflection. The deputy probes for more information. More evasion from the suspect here. This secrecy is a red flag. She stammers, realizing she might have said too much, hinting at probation. The deputy tries to de-escalate her panic. She desperately tries to shield her boyfriend, distancing him entirely. Police need to verify her story and identity. They need details to clear up the situation, keeping things calm and professional. She almost slips up. Suddenly, she pivots right back to blaming others. Listen, she plays the victim, calling them terrible. This is a classic deflection tactic. The deputy calmly plays along with her excuse, keeping it completely professional. She remains highly agitated and argumentative. She displays total frustration now, unbothered. Now they are placing her inside the cruiser, safely. Immediately she starts complaining about the handcuffs. She wants them to loosen the cuffs up. Space. The deputy agrees to adjust them safely, but they are not letting her go. She tries, promising she will not fight, begging for sympathy here. Rejected. Right into the back of the car. The officer attempts to de-escalate the situation. He asks for a clear explanation of events, promising that other units will assist soon. This is a classic law enforcement technique. The suspect hesitates. Police guide her into the cruiser, helping her step into the transport vehicle. Carefully now. She is secure. The door shuts. Now officers need the full story. They press for more specific details. Frustration. They hand the interview to another officer. The suspect resists talking to others. The deputy insists, but she refuses. Tension is starting to rise. The primary deputy looks around for other witnesses. Next up. Who called? An eyewitness steps forward immediately. He guides her away to separate them. Now watch. She points out a crucial detail. Notice the small pink bag nearby. The deputy asks her to describe everything. She recalls seeing children running in panic. Apparently, they were fleeing the local park. A chase was underway. She points to another witness who saw the whole encounter. He observed closely the suspect as he followed behind, trying desperately to protect the children. Indeed, The woman was violently throwing objects, targeting the kids as she advanced, pursuing them directly to the street corner. Then she abruptly turned around, retreating. A young girl was riding her bicycle. When the suspect suddenly approached her, the suspect physically shoves the little girl off her bicycle, knocking her flat onto the pavement like that. That is when the bystander finally dials 911, because hurting a kid is crossing a line. The officer agrees. Then the witness's mother steps in to intervene, trying to calm the chaos down. Now the deputy asks for her identification. "Do you have your license?" She explains that her ID is at home. Let's follow along as the officer gets the full timeline. He wants the story from the very beginning, up until the moment police arrived on scene. They were just hanging out in their yard when they spotted the suspect wandering by. He clarifies where they were standing. They were outdoors. Indeed, they noticed a group of kids running, fleeing in terror from the nearby park. Scared. Okay. The aggressive woman was actively pursuing the children, but then she tried grabbing a tree branch, apparently looking for some kind of improvised weapon, right off a nearby tree. Noted. When that failed, she resumed her chase, targeting the kids. A neighbor yelled for the kids to go home, to find safety. The pursuit continued down the street. They rounded a corner, temporarily breaking line of sight. Then she started walking back toward them. Meanwhile, the children followed her, thinking it was a game. One young girl was just riding her bicycle, completely ignoring the woman, when suddenly she gets targeted. The suspect violently shoves her off the seat, knocking her down before grabbing the bicycle, seizing the ride, and shoving the child again, unprovoked. Let's pay close attention to the deputy's next question, asking if the suspect actually choked the young child. The officer gathers initial witness statements. This bystander recalls seeing the suspect push someone. A crowd of kids blocked her view. She could not catch every detail. She was too far across the street. Understood. She suggests questioning other nearby witnesses. For clarity, the officer is canvassing the area, gathering statements from every potential witness. Systematically, he approaches another witness. This man is ready to speak. He wanted to avoid the neighborhood drama completely. He listens. He backs her story. Now we hear his side. He was inside getting change when it erupted, stepping right into the conflict. The officer clarifies the exact location. Confirmed. The deputy keeps him focused. Things escalated very quickly. The deputy presses for physical details. He claims she was chasing a group of boys while shouting insults. Noted. What came next? He reiterates seeing her aggression, but the officer needs to know about violence. He wants to know about physical contact. Specifically, he mentions an object being thrown. This could mean an assault charge. Uncertain. The officer tries identifying a victim, or was she just targeting the entire crowd? Notice how he asks this question. He turns and asks the kids directly, who was targeted? She was aiming at everyone generally. Understood. Threatening the entire group of kids? This helps build a clear assault case. The officer asks. That's when he got noticed. Exactly. The officer tries to verify the physical assault. Did the suspect shove the child? But the bystander says he missed it. The deputy keeps things relaxed. Still, he thinks it definitely happened. Understood. He apologizes anyway. The deputy shifts to the rest of the incident. Next. Nothing. Confirmed. The officer asks the witness for his ID. None. Yes. It's been a chaotic day. The officer reassures him is not a problem, just finalizing notes. The deputy explains he must log their brief interaction, standard procedure for documenting a police interview. But he offers the civilian a comfortable choice. He can stay completely off the record. The witness seems slightly confused. The cop repeats the question clearly, indifferent. But the deputy leaves the decision up to him. He gets it. Deciding, the officer needs a direct answer for the report. Or not. Is she arrested? Absolutely. Kids are safe. The cop reassures him the children are protected now, out of danger. The witness is relieved. So the officer suggests keeping him off the report. Right. Just keeping his spoken statement on file. It's his choice alone. The officer has no personal stake in it. Suddenly, a command is heard off camera. Instantly obeyed. Let's watch. The kids seem okay, but watch here. The suspect isn't. That is obvious. She is showing major signs of impairment, and she is acting extremely erratic in public. Now, the officer begins questioning the young witnesses. They explain how this woman stalked them relentlessly. The children were terrified and fleeing. She pursued them across the area, grabbing random objects. She was collecting weapons from the ground and throwing debris at them. The tension starts rising very quickly here, as bystander emotions begin to boil over. People are stepping in to defend them. Tempers are flaring rapidly. The witness is angry. They were just playing outside peacefully, right? Just minding their own business in public. Completely. Yes. Causing zero trouble whatsoever. Indeed. Watch closely. The police listen. A neighbor points out how well behaved they were and notes they had no reason to leave. The officer agrees with this point. Correct. They had every right to stay. Children are legally allowed to enjoy public parks. Another, the community protects its own. Absolutely. She has no relation to them. True. She is a stranger. Exactly. And her hostile behavior makes zero sense. Wait, with a tree branch. The officer steps in to get their statements. He is sorting out the details. Her arrest is already a certainty. A relieved neighbor asks for confirmation. The deputy confirms she is already secured inside. The crowd settles. Now the deputy begins scanning for other witnesses. He directly addresses one of the kids. Someone points out the next speaker, but an adult steps in, pointing to parents. First, they point. They redirect him to the mother. The child asks. The officer waves the mother over. A witness insists on reporting a physical assault. The suspect apparently targeted another child. The deputy immediately asks for the victim. They describe her shoving a girl. He needs to establish direct eyewitnesses, but the witness backtracks, admitting she missed it. She explains she was just trying to intervene. Her focus was on stopping the threat. He asks her to recount her story anyway. She begins by setting the scene from home. Listening, she saw the suspect throwing sticks at children. Neighbors shouted at her to knock it off. Another neighbor approached to confirm what happened. They both realized they had witnessed an assault. They warned her to leave the children alone. The suspect tried to justify her actions. She claimed the neighborhood kids were out of control. The witness told her there was no excuse. They urged her to just walk away instead. But then, she watched the suspect push a girl to the ground. Or rather, her daughter saw the actual shove. She immediately ran over to check on the victim. Let us look at this crucial detail together. The officer clarifies if she saw the crash. Once again, she states her daughter witnessed it. She only saw the aftermath on the pavement. Notice how this witness describes rushing over to intervene. She claims she saw the physical push happen. She wanted to de-escalate, but missed some details. The chaos happened too fast to see everything. Her focus was stopping the fight. She reveals she was actually assaulted as well, showing a scratch on her back, but brushing it off. The officer asks if she wants to press charges. She declines. When asked for identification, she has none. The officer asks for her basic information. Instead, she is comfortable being in the police report. The officer reassures her that it is optional. This keeps the interaction low pressure and cooperative. The witness apologizes anyway. Next, clarification. He investigates. Ready. Let us examine how the story unfolds here. The deputy clarifies who they are. The witness and her friend were simply walking home. They were heading back to her residence nearby. The officer asks where they were coming from, trying to establish a clear timeline of events. They had been at Orange and 20th Street. Then they began their walk back home. That is when they encountered the suspect, who was reportedly chasing young children around. The deputy asks what she was yelling. She explains the woman was heavily intoxicated, merely screaming incoherently in the street. Normally, she tries to avoid drunk individuals. Avoidance is her usual strategy, but they started giggling. An unrelated joke caused their laughter. The suspect took this laughter personally, believing they were mocking her behavior. Misunderstanding. They tried to correct her mistake, but the suspect lashed out anyway, shoving the victim hard against a gate. Which gate? She points out the exact fence, right beside these young men. The officer clarifies it happened on Orange Avenue. He asks if the physical altercation was unprovoked. Unprovoked? Yes. Now he checks the victim's age. 13 years old. He asks if an adult guardian is present. Just friends. Understood. The officer pushes to get a parent involved. Yes. What? She says her mother is busy. The deputy insists this situation takes absolute priority because an active police investigation is underway now. He firmly directs her to place the call, demanding cooperation while keeping his tone polite. Next, he asks if they want to prosecute for the assault, but the girl is distracted by her dying phone. A common issue in these situations. Right there, they called 911, checking for any signs of blacking out. Briefly, fortunately, her aunt is nearby to help. The officer digs into the exact physical contact, determining if she was pinned down or grabbed. Pinned and held. He visualizes the struggle against the barrier, clarifying if she was trapped against the fence or restrained some other way, demonstrating the hold. The officer explains the severe legal consequences. The suspect faces multiple charges, including child abuse, which is classified as a serious felony charge. On top of that, there are additional counts, namely disorderly intoxication and resisting arrest, due to her earlier defiance during the encounter, when she actively fought back against the officer. This ensures her bail will be set high. The supervisor is sending more patrol units to transport the suspect directly to county jail. First, they gather statements. A relative, actually, great-granddaughter. The officer quickly notes this. Now, he shifts to another witness, preparing to hand over the state's mandatory official victim rights pamphlets. These documents outline all their legal protection, established directly under Marcy's law protections. Since minors are involved here, the guardian must act as their official voice. They will help clarify these details. For the report, she agrees. The officer then asks for any questions, offering help, but she jumps into explaining things, pointing out her brother was there and witnessed the physical choking incident firsthand. Shocking. She wants answers about the suspect. Now, indeed, exactly. Let's review this claim. The witness confirms. She admits she didn't see the choking itself, only witnessing the initial physical struggle and shove. She tried to de-escalate the entire situation by telling the kids to leave the area and get their parents involved immediately. Meanwhile, her daughter called police. She begged the suspect to stop harassing and arguing with the children, hoping she would just walk away. Her behavior was making things worse, regardless of who started it. An adult should know better, but the suspect kept acting hostile. She aggressively breached the witness's boundary, getting directly into her face multiple times. The witness repeatedly warned her to back away. Now, let's watch what unfolds. As the investigation continues here, the witness shows officers where the vehicle pulled up. She explains that she immediately bolted toward the confrontation. The neighbor placed herself directly in the suspect's path. She tells the officer she was standing right there. That is when the suspect turned and scratched her, but she did not care about her own injuries. Her sole focus was keeping the children safe. The suspect kept trying to attack the kids. This aggressive behavior continued throughout the entire encounter. She was actively targeting a specific little girl. It seemed like any child was a target. Interestingly, she completely avoided confronting any adults. She only went after children. The crowd laughs. Now, she addresses the idea of pressing charges. She tells officers a scratch is not worth it. Okay, the suspect is already facing major felonies anyway. This minor issue will not change her situation. It is basically irrelevant now. The deputy notes those charges are far worse compared to this minor incident. They chuckle. Her injury is relatively minor. She can heal, but she worried for the kids. That was her primary concern that night. The moment physical contact was made, she ran. Her daughter witnessed a young girl being attacked. Seeing the child fall pushed her to act. She sprinted straight over without a second thought. She was running straight to protect that child. She repeatedly warned the suspect to stop. The suspect was actively hurling sticks at minors. She refuses to excuse the suspect being drunk, even if children are being difficult sometimes. She has kids herself and understands that, but hitting someone else's child is completely unacceptable. You never lay hands on them. Surprisingly, the suspect was friendly earlier. The suspect's grandchildren were also hanging out. They had been chatting with the neighbor earlier. The group was sitting on her front porch. Everyone was interacting and having a good time. It was just a normal evening at first. Then they walked away, and everything fell apart. This is the critical moment. If we look closely, everything shifts, and the young girl gets caught. Let's watch as she turns. The suspect tries to casually dismiss the officers, attempting to walk away mid-investigation. The officer immediately calls out this reckless behavior, involving minors. Classic deflection. Now the deputy presses on who actually safeguards these children, demanding to know who will take custody, since nobody else seems to be looking out for them. He needs real answers, not just endless excuses, to ensure their safety. This prompts an emotional response from the suspect, who insists they would never cause any harm, claiming the children deserve the very best, and trying to play victim to the police. But words do not change the situation, or the impending arrest. And right on cue, the officer starts reading Miranda, making the arrest official. The suspect acknowledges. Any statements made from here on can be used. Standard protocol during a criminal investigation. A crucial step. Understood. The deputy explains the right to legal counsel, which applies before and during any questioning by law enforcement. Suddenly, the suspect complains about the cuffs, claiming they are unable to breathe properly. The officer points out they are speaking clearly, insisting he keeps the focus on completing the warnings, ensuring the suspect knows their options while they are being questioned. But the suspect shifts focus back to the cuffs, asking for immediate relief. The officer explains they are already adjusted properly for safety reasons. They promise to comply and not resist arrest. The officer acknowledges this but maintains full control. Watch. The deputy tells him to stop gesturing. He demands words instead of wild hands. The suspect immediately deflects and complains, playing the victim. But the deputy shuts down that excuse quickly. He was there. Now he tries reading his rights again. The standard Miranda warning must be finished. Do you understand? The suspect keeps whining, begging for mercy. He keeps trying to stall the process. The deputy demands his full attention right now. He needs to hear his rights, but Alexander is focused on something else completely, distracted. So the officer starts the warning over again. He is making sure the legal bases are covered. It is critical for a clean arrest. Understand? The suspect refuses to cooperate. The deputy has had enough. He shifts to the next phase, ordering the suspect to get into the patrol car. Move back. The suspect hurls a personal insult instead, but the deputy stays calm and professional, just trying to get him inside the unit. The suspect demands to know why. The officer will explain, but only if he cooperates. Compliance is required before they can discuss it. Insults. The verbal abuse does not faze him at all. He just keeps repeating the same command calmly. Will he comply? Absolutely not. Now comes the warning about physical force. He actually dares them, begging for a fight, while trying to negotiate on his terms. The window for talking has officially closed. He tries to argue one last time. Useless. This interaction is over. Booking is next. The suspect is already complaining. The officer starts listing her serious criminal charges. She is facing 2 counts of child abuse, plus public intoxication and resisting arrest. The deputy asks if she understands. He waits for her. She does. The deputy prompts her to speak her mind. Instead of asking a question, she plays the victim, claiming she only loved them. But the officer shuts down her deflection immediately, reminding her she shoved them against a fence. She demands proof. He points out there are witnesses. Notice how she is trying to stall and buy time here, still denying everything. The deputy orders her inside. Now she accuses the deputy of being aggressive. He remains incredibly calm and sets a clear boundary with her, directing her to get into the patrol car. She continues to lie despite the witnesses on scene, denying any physical contact. The officer repeats his order. She claims she will comply but continues to stand there. He tells her she must. She still hesitates. More excuses. She starts screaming, acting like a victim. She claims the officer is pushing her around, when he is actually just guiding her inside. She is resistant. The deputy gently tries to guide her into the seat, telling her to slide. She fights back. They finally get her in. The officer tries to de-escalate and calm things down, but she keeps protesting the arrest, complaining that it is unfair, trying to guilt the officers. Completely dramatic. The officer warns her that they want to avoid force, trying to keep the situation stable, but he makes the consequences very clear to her, showing that resisting like this will only make matters worse. Securing his legs in restraints. He tries protesting. He finally agrees to cooperate. He offers up his feet for restraints, but he keeps trying to argue. He hesitates here. Notice how the officer explains the restraints, namely, preventing property damage and extra charges. He tells the suspect to slide them in. Now, defiant. Silence. Now, they address an issue with the seatbelt. A safety check. The suspect offers compliance. The deputy explains how he managed the process. He asks his partner if they should buckle him securely. His partner agrees. He moves to the other side of the cruiser, calling him out. The deputy addresses the young suspect to apply the gear, securing him further. The suspect immediately gets defensive. De-escalation attempts start, but he repeats the question, urging calmness. He refuses to listen. They tell him to relax. He remains highly combative. Watch how he tries to divide the deputies, claiming officer misconduct. Denied. He insists anyway, pushing his narrative. Meanwhile, the deputies focus on the seatbelt, checking the straps. The suspect shifts back to compliance for a moment, temporarily. Secured. The accusations start again, blaming the entire team, trying to explain. The deputy pauses to check with his supervisor, ensuring the scene remains safe. Officers claim they have plenty of witness statements to prove it. She denies. Back to officers. One officer admits he has never used hobbles. Yet, his partner replies, confirming the fact. She has used the restraint device twice now. Wow, they are useful, he says. Now they discuss writing the force use report. Next, she will handle the force documentation. Understood. Dividing up the required paperwork. He handles the supplement, ensuring all logs are covered. Preparing to depart shortly. Only minor physical contact occurred prior to this, meaning no other major physical force was needed. Besides the leg restraint, he starts searching her belongings before they depart the scene. He asks for an update on her background. Details. Listen. Well, the details she gave are highly suspicious. He briefs the team on her wild story. They stay alert. His partner offers to help search her things, or stay back. Watch. They locate evidence and prepare a bag. Indeed, he begins describing her highly impaired state, noting that she is severely under the influence. A strong odor of alcohol exists. He notes that her clothes are wet, too. Yes, her shorts are soaked. She clearly lost control of her bodily functions. Deciphering her slurred speech is very difficult. The officer explains she moved to the park. Apparently, she spent the whole day with several guys. Meanwhile, dispatch interrupts them. The suspect was moving erratically between different parks. She walked down Martin Luther King. They note her shocking physical decline. It is truly shocking. Substance abuse clearly played a major role in this incident. Let us listen. Then, she walked down the street with her companion. That is when her behavior spiraled into a rant, fueled by alcohol and bizarre, rambling delusions, during which she spotted a group of children nearby on the street. She immediately began shouting, telling them to pay attention. She fixated aggressively on those children, attempting to intervene. She repeatedly used highly offensive racial slurs, creating a scene. Crucially, she started lecturing them about life struggles, comparing their hardships to her own difficulties, trying to warn them about future hardships that they would inevitably have to face, warning them to get out of the street. She claimed she was just trying to mother them. Crucially, she denied any actual physical contact, insisting things did not escalate to physical violence or laying hands on them. However, the suspect repeatedly maintained she never touched anyone. She claimed her intentions were purely protective, expressing a highly delusional connection. But the deputy has several witness statements contradicting her story. Indeed, she did. Piecing together the exact timeline is difficult. Given her highly impaired state, we know she was with some individuals earlier, before confronting the kids in the middle of MLK. We see her stop on the road and start shouting her opinion at the officers. The deputy asks his partner for transport assistance to the jail. The partner quickly agrees to help. He needs backup. Here, for this suspect, they are coordinating the transport logistics. Let's examine what they found. It is questionable. They analyze the contraband. Unused drug paraphernalia. To be precise, clean smoking devices. Indeed, without any drug residue left inside them. Though, prosecution is extremely difficult for police. Since these items are completely unused, it is hard to justify charges. The deputies must evaluate the legal standard. Because of this, the clean contraband will likely be destroyed. One officer offers to transport the items to secure storage. This keeps the booking scene highly organized until they confirm the official charging decision, but backup is still required for that long ride back to the station. Agreed. Notice how the suspect reacts with intense anger. He yells insults at the deputies. Calmly, they ignore him. Remaining professional is key. They wrap up the scene. The suspect attempts to shift the narrative by bringing up race and location. He accuses them again, shouting profanities repeatedly. The officer asks for clarification here. He refuses. Then dispatch sends a critical radio transmission regarding a serious sexual assault suspect. Look at this. The suspect instantly escalates things. He tries biting an officer. Now the officer warns of charges, but the suspect refuses to listen. He keeps repeating the officer's badge number. Completely uncooperative. Police push forward. Resistance. He threatens the officer's career now. That is a massive mistake. He mockingly dares the police. Assaulting an officer is a felony. Biting counts as lethal force. The suspect displays zero remorse. They are trying to stay patient. Denials. Total defiance. Tension is spiking very quickly. Let us see how they handle this. Transport. He plays the victim, yet he still refuses cooperation. Officers are trying to keep things professional. Respect. The suspect starts deflecting the blame. He accuses the other officer, claiming he was provoked during transport. He continues targeting badge 1940. His verbal abuse gets extremely aggressive. He absolutely refuses to cooperate now. Now he threatens to cause a scene. This behavior worsens his case. He completely devalues the officer's authority. Insults. He continues throwing wild and angry accusations, blaming them for everything. Pure deflection. Denial. The officers decide to change tactics here. They are repositioning to secure him. Panic. This is a critical moment. Notice how he tries to divide them. Classic manipulation. The encounter begins. Immediately, she starts yelling outrageous accusations. Completely unhinged behavior. But a bystander steps up, shutting down her claims. They confirm they know the person well. She immediately gets extremely vulgar. Officers try to intervene. The deputy patiently tries to guide her away, but she refuses to answer him clearly. Instead, she aggressively demands his badge number. He states it, 1965. He confirms it calmly, directly. He asks if she will walk. Now she suddenly plays victim, trying to stall, dramatically, avoiding his simple orders. The officer remains professional. Defiantly, he repeats the question. She circles back to accusations. The deputy gives a command. She immediately goes into denial, insisting she did nothing wrong, feigning absolute shock. Completely. Indeed, he begins the arrest. She shifts all blame onto him, obsessively. She screams her innocence again, loudly, making a scene in public, to everyone. The physical struggle begins here. An absolute mess. She is secured. Ultimately, she faced serious charges, including child abuse, resisting an officer, and public drunkenness. How would you handle this intense situation? Share your thoughts below. Hit like and subscribe for more Bodycam breakdowns.